right, here we go. I believe day 79 on the road to 21-inch arms. Coming at you live on the road, doing a little road trip, an impromptu road trip. What happened in the sesh today? Shoulder really bugging me, probably the worst it's been. I had done legs yesterday, so I'm thinking that some of the hip tension and my right psoas being tight is kind of mangling up the right shoulder. That's what it feels like. Oh, do I need to get over? Probably soon. But, and it makes the bicep curls really awkward. And we're just doing our best. I'm just doing my best. The weight's quite a bit lower with the curls, and they don't feel great, but I'm trying to work with what I got. The triceps are still improving. We got 14 on the first set of tries. As always, you're getting the third and final set here, which we got 13, which was the same as the previous workout. I mean, you're not gonna hit a PR, you're not gonna add a rep every session, so that's okay. And I had a poor sleep the night before, so that is going to contribute. Look at that. Aggressive maneuvering with the Florida plate on the back. Who is this maniac?
Florida man.
Yeah, so that will happen. But I thought this set looked cleaner than the last set of 13 in the previous session, which, you know, I've talked about this at length before. You want to pay attention to trying to increase the weight that you're doing by adding reps and then eventually upping the weight, but not at the behest. Is that even the right context to use that word? Of your form.
I have no idea.
I should just start unnecessarily using
Big words
so people think I'm smarter, you know?
No, don't do that.
I want to be one of those guys. Just to signal to people that I'm intelligent. At the behest? At like the sacrifice of your form? Adding reps and weight at the behest of your form. At the
It's
expense.
Command.
Huh?
Person's orders are command. They had assembled at his behest.
So that kind of makes sense. Like you're adding weight and reps at the command of, yeah, not really. Try to finagle it to make it make sense.
Cool word.
Cool word, though. For whatever reason, my brain was like, let's use this at this juncture in time. That probably makes sense. At the cost of your form and execution. So sometimes getting the same amount of reps at the same weight, but doing it with slightly better form, meaning more control, maybe a little bit further range of motion, is actually a tangible improvement. Because if you focus so much on adding those additional reps, you know, you will inevitably deteriorate your form. It's happened to me many times. So that was a noticeable improvement that we were pretty fired up about. The pump.
Is it starting to fog up?
A little bit, I suggested. I think we're good. The pump stuff at the end of the sesh was pretty solid and juicy. We got all inflated at the end. Generally speaking, I think I am still trending in the direction of making gains. And we haven't done a measurement since like the beginning of November. I try to just only measure once a month because you're not realistically going to grow your arms like a quarter inch in a month, especially once you're past your newbie gains phase, is like fantastic progress. That would be kind of probably like, in most instances, the upper limit of what you're going to gain. And, you know, measurement error, variability in fullness. So if you measure weekly, like you'll notice your arms might be up 1/8 of an inch, and then the next measurement they're down 1/8 of an inch, and you're like depressed. You're like, what the fuck? I'm getting smaller. I'm working out, and my arms are shrinking. No, there's just going to be some variability of 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, based on how you're measuring, the time of day, your carbs, etc. So for that reason, and given that you're probably not going to grow more than, you know, 1/4 inch per month, I just don't think there's any point in measuring more than once a month. But I also do think that consistently measuring in general is a very useful tool that keeps you on track and can positively reinforce the progress that you're making, because day in and day out, you just see yourself over and over and you don't really see the change on a daily basis. But, if 3 months ago your arms were 15 inches and now they're 15.5, you hit that measurement and you're like, fuck, and you write it down, you're like, holy shit, I've definitely made gains. And then you look at your arms and then it gives you more positive momentum. So I don't think it's worth being serious about trying to grow your arms and not measuring them. I think it's a tool that you should definitely be using. Anyways, say all that to make the point that we will be doing a new measurement soon, and I'm pretty sure that we've added a little extra sliver of meat, Like when you go into a donair shop and the guy just chops a vertical sliver off that rotating pylon of meat, and it's like that big. I'm thinking we slapped another one of those onto the old piperonis. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes you feel like you're growing and then you measure, and the tape measure is ruthlessly objective. It'll let you know. Nah, dude, you ain't done shit.
Bummer.
Fuck you, god damn it. That can be pretty disappointing. But it can also be useful because you can kind of convince yourself you're making progress, and then you'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And the tape measure will, maybe if you don't see growth, it's been 3 months and you keep measuring it the same, it'll give you that negative stimulus where you feel initially shitty, especially if you're working really hard at it, you're making sacrifices and you're like putting so much energy into it. It's like 6 months have gone by, I haven't even grown my arms at all, and you think about all the workouts you've done, all the meals you're eating, everything that you're putting in, it can be very, that negative feeling is very powerful and potent, and it can motivate you to then make the changes that you need to like shake you out of your rut. Be like, okay, bitch, stop doing the exact same shit over and over again. Like that negative emotion can be a very powerful motivator. So although in the moment it feels horrible, it will, if you sit in that kind of horrible feeling of like, I'm putting so much effort into this, I'm not getting results, it doesn't feel good at all, that can motivate you to make the next change, the next evolution that you need to make in your training, or your recovery, or your lifestyle, or what adjustment you need to make to stimulate more growth, because it is ultimately continual adjustments and evolution of your training to lead to new growth. You have to have growth in your training to experience physical growth in the muscles. So you can't, for 6 months just do the same thing over and over. And unfortunately, we're creatures of habit that seek comfort. So the default position is to make a change, maybe because of a bad measurement, or maybe because of random circumstances or something inspired you, and it is a positive change that leads to more growth. It was an evolution that created additional stimulus wherein your body needed to respond by adding additional muscle, positive adaptation, and then it works, and then you stick with it for too long. 6 months later, you're training exactly the same. Realistically, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks of that new training approach led to gains. For example, you start training a little bit higher volume and slightly longer rest times in between your sets, gained more strength, a bit more volume every week. That worked, for example. You stick with that. Higher volume, longer rest times, long sessions. 6 months later, you're still doing the same thing because it worked before. Well, your body adapted to that, and it's used to that. And by default, we want to know the best way to do something, and we get comfortable, and we're creatures of habit. And I've done it a million times. Everybody does it. But you have to resist that. And the measurement can be a good thing that reminds you, because it still happens to me, 15 years later, and the number of times I've talked about it and I know it, mentally I still am susceptible to sticking with a certain approach for too long and not making the next adaptation evolution, because recency bias is showing you that this works, and you got that positive feeling like, wow, I made more gains doing this. So you get too attached to the current methodology without realizing that it's only going to be effective for a short period of time. And that's kind of that's the bitch. That's the nature of training for muscle growth, so far as my experience has been. It's a devious, ever-changing thing. I mean, it's not immensely complex. Some of these changes are quite small, but you have to find a way to create new additional stress or stimulus that your body has to respond to by growing. And to do that, you just simply can't do the exact same shit over and over and over again. So, among many other tools, the continual measurements of your arms is an additional tool that can either be positively reinforcing to motivate you. You can objectively see the improvements you're making, whereas, 3 months have gone by, you may not have been aware. This happens to people quite often because you look at yourself in the mirror every day, you don't notice the change because it's so slow. Or it can be negative, create a negative reaction or emotion that, if utilized correctly, will motivate you to make positive changes in your training, because it forces you to reflect on what you're not doing, because you're not getting good results. And if you don't experience that negative emotion, unless you're just a super curious, creative, floofty, watery person who just continuously tries stuff regardless, then you're probably not going to experiment enough and try the new things that you need to. And it's a fine balance, because you also need some structure. If you're super floaty and you have no structure, then it can also be counterproductive. If you're just constantly doing new things willy-nilly, it can actually hurt you as well. For example, like doing a new exercise every time you train your arms, or doing like 6 different movements and then changing the order. It's like too much variability. It's hard for you to track what's working. It's hard for you to isolate what simple changes to make. So at the end of the day, you need to be flexible, but also have consistency and structure, which is a really fine line and a difficult thing to strike. But that's, part of the game. And ultimately, training for muscle gain challenges your mind to be more nimble and adaptable and resist against common patterns of repeating things that have worked in the past because they're comfortable. Or, sticking to, too much structure, which would be that, or, needing too much variety or seeking for constant variability and variety, and then not giving yourself enough simplicity in your training that you can actually isolate what changes you do make, what effect they're having. And so those are like, the places you end up in are what is most in your nature or most comfortable to most of us as humans. So it forces you to like work against that. And like, wow, I wouldn't normally be like simultaneously really structured, but also constantly pushing myself out of the comfort zone to do new things. It's a really hard thing to balance. So that's just one more way that I do think really applying yourself with some vigor and like pressure to gain as much muscle as you can will develop your mind and it teaches you so many different lessons. If you really want to keep seeing progress, you have to keep evolving the way you think and being able to take on new actions and execute new habits that are not natural, that are difficult to do. And I've seen in my time it helped me to develop my mentality and my mental strength in addition to just the physical benefits. So I think that's enough of a ramble for today. We will be, measuring sometime in the next week or two. I like to wait until a day where I'm feeling real full. No pump, it's got to be cold still, but there's variability in fullness. Some days you feel a little flat, some days you feel a little full. I personally always wait until a day or a time of day where I am feeling full, and that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit the measurement here, because we're hoping to get a little improvement, and so I want to lean into doing it when I might be a little more fluffy. If you want the ARM program, as always, she's linked. It's all, the things I've learned through my experimentation. Not necessary. I give away the majority of the lessons and the things you need to focus on for free, but if you want a little more structure, a little more direct guidance, it can be useful. And then, of course, I talk about all of the things I'm doing in the enhanced world on my website as well. So the different protocols, different compounds, the things I'm doing. Just recorded a video about that prior to this one, kind of talking about how having patience and being deliberate with what you're using and having a really good reason to use any individual compound, and then examining slowly over time what effect it has on you, so that you're not unnecessarily using things and you can't measure what's doing what. Even though, people nowadays, they just want to blast hella gear right off rip. I get the temptation, but I think for most people that leads to a lot of side effects and potentially a negative experience where, they gain some size, but the side effects outweigh the positives, and then they come off and they lose size. And, I don't think that's not the camp that I want to be in, and that's not the camp that I want you guys to be in. At the end of the day, you don't have to do any of this stuff. You can just keep training as a natural if you want, but if you're interested and you want to learn, I share transparently all of my experiences on the site. So if you're interested in that, you can subscribe. As always, thanks for watching. I'm gonna focus on driving here because it is winter and conditions are sketchy and it's dark. And I'm not good at multitasking. So we've already survived this far while I'm rambling about shit. So let's cut it off there because we're going through some crazy turns and I don't know, you can't really see, is there enough light? But it's like, look at the freaking hairpin corners we're going around. Snow everywhere. Good thing we got the snow tires on yesterday, or the day before. Still doesn't make us invincible though.
Yeah, still be careful.
Be careful. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.